So tonight is the last lesson, so congratulations. No certificate, huh, but that's the eighth lesson. So tonight we'll talk on Vipassana, on this insight. So we've been talking about Vipassana actually all the way right from the first lesson. So as long as we are thinking of impermanence, rising and passing, that's already Vipassana. But today is more like more detailed kind of explanation. Huh? Okay, so we can proceed. Can we see this working? Oh, okay, so it works. Okay, yes. Okay, so Vipassana has many definitions. Right? So the first definition is the process of contemplation. So basically, like when we think of rising and passing, that's a kind of contemplation. So that's the very general definition. So it's like all across the board. And the second one also a bit, but it's probably a more modern day usage. We say the process of some kind of understanding or realization. So if a person have like a aha moment, like cartoon and got one light bulb appear like that. You like not you feel like you know something like that. Then the aha moment is like expression of insight, and we use the insight to express this aha. You as though you know something. So that's the second kind of definition. But of course, this aha moment is very subjective, lah. May not be the, the first kind of reflection of impermanence. And the last one would be I would say, reinvention of Buddhist schools. So basically, the Buddhist schools, some of them will say, oh, theirs is the correct method of Vipassana, this method is correct method of Vipassana. So the resurgence of these Vipassana movements is like probably in the 1800s, around there, in the 1800s. So we call this the reinvention of Theravada kind of meditation movement. So it's a reinvention. So if you really look up like the history of the Vipassana movements, with the so-called the pioneer of the Vipassana movement, like from Myanmar, like Ledi Sayadaw, Ledi. And some of his contemporaries is like in the 1800s. So before him, before this Sayadaw, hey, nobody practices like this type of Vipassana. So basically, they reverse engineer a certain style of method based on, for example, a certain meditation manual like the Visuddhimagga. Then they come up with a certain system. Then they call this Vipassana. Then another sayadaw, another teacher come up with another system. Then another school of Vipassana. So it becomes a bit more exclusive exclusive. So it's not like a very general vipassana that we know that all Buddhist meditation should have, but it's a exclusive school type of vipassana. Yeah, so that's the third definition. So even like the Thai forest tradition, so the Thai version of vipassana would be, I would say, the forest version. Generally, would be the Asubha meditation that we talked about in the earlier sessions, impurities of the body. So they call it a kind of vipassana meditation. Okay, so I'm going to show you a video clip, example of the third one. So the third one is too branched out, so many different schools. People open up so many different schools that it become like a bit confusing. So sometimes people may just call themselves like Vipassana, but what they're practicing may not be Vipassana or may not be Orthodox Buddhism even. Huh? So is the video up? It's not showing on the screen. Probably need to stop the share screen and reshare. Okay, so everyone can see, eh? Okay, go to the, yeah, then you need to share screen again. Share the YouTube one. Okay, go to the 5.5 minute mark. You can turn off the volume because the background music is a bit loud. Okay, five, yeah, 5.5. Okay. Okay, so this is an example. You look at the, sorry, you smaller the screen. You smaller the screen. And, yeah. So you look at the author, it's called Vipassana Village. So they call themselves Vipassana, but what they do may not be Vipassana, you see. So they get people to enter into trance and get possessed by spirits. So the people shouting at the ear, shouting mantras and getting them into the possession mode. So this is their Vipassana. Yeah, so it's a combination syncretism of animistic practice and interestingly, even the monks on board also, huh? Yeah, so they shout lah, shout until they go into trance. And it's not like a small group, it's a large group, you know, they openly advertise. Then they, towards the end, you even see like very high-ranking civil servants supporting even. So it's Thai culture, like this one. Okay, so the history of, you see monks involved. Okay, so um, before probably like the introduction of the Thai forest tradition, maybe before the Western countries start to colonize the Buddhist countries around Thailand, um, the Buddhists in this region, you see high-ranking official all come and support us. Yeah. So the Buddhism is a bit like the Chinese Buddhism, sometimes cham with Taoism, folk religion. So Thai Buddhism also the same. In Myanmar, Thailand also very similar. So until the Western counterparts came, they sent their missionaries. So it's the Christian missionaries sent over. Then the Christian missionaries come and look. Hey, yeah, you're speaking to the devil. Then all the black magic, all those. So um, in order to appease the colonizers, because if you offend them, they might they might prohibit your practice and whatever not. So some of the Buddhist religious leaders start to we say reinvent the meditation. So we call this the uh, how do you call it? Do these vipassana movements. So all the earlier teachers, it's not working again. Okay. Yep. Okay. So we're back here. So the different schools, so all the like the Mahasi and the Goenka. So all these are probably like we said the reinvented kind of meditation, because probably before the pioneers, before like the Lady Sayadaw, there isn't any like Vipassana teacher. So they kind of reverse engineer the Visuddhimagga and came up with their style of this meditation, probably to appease the colonizer. They say we're practicing the clean form of Buddhism, no funny magic stuff. So okay, then give a Buddhism clean image. Then they can let your religion kind of live in peace. Okay, no, it doesn't work again. Yeah, probably the door. Okay, so we can use a few, I would say, books to give like a comprehensive view of Vipassana. So like this, how come the screen blocking? Okay, so there's this Vipassana Bhumipata, which is actually the found in the Abhidhamma. So there is particular segment that talks about all the passages and stages of insight. So we are only interested to know the terminologies. So all these are terminologies. Five aggregates, all these numbers. So all these are not lottery numbers. Okay, so the five aggregates, I believe you all know already. Who hasn't heard before five aggregates? Okay, so all heard before, so just a quick recap. And the form, feeling, perception, mental formation, consciousness. So this is the basic you all need to know. There are a lot of things that are very repetitive. Then you have these 12 bases. 12 bases means your six sense door, your sense organs, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, and the six objects. That means the object that you see over here, the no, material form, then the external sound, and so on and so forth. That links to the six senses. And then the 18 elements is the same thing. They extend out to the six sense consciousness. So basically, it's the awareness from the eye, awareness from the ear, so on and so forth. So the same thing. And then you have the additional thing called 22 faculties. So some of the things may not be taught in any of the Vipassana schools at all. So for example, if you look at the red color words, they have the femininity element, masculinity element, vitality element. Nobody teaches this. Then all these last three talks about enlightenment. Okay, so six sense doors repetition. You have the five types of feelings which are covered in the Satipatthana: pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, body, mind. The feelings can appear in the body or mind. Then you have the five powers, briefly went through in the impurities of the body. So the five powers is basically like your potential on how far you can progress. So it talks about the faith you have, the effort you put in, how much mindfulness you have, how much concentration, how much wisdom. So these are five faculties or the five powers. Then the Four Noble Truths, and the last one, 12 links of dependent origination. Yeah, so to the last one, a bit chim, but I will kind of quickly or briefly go through a bit. Okay, so this is like the chart we showed before. It talks about these five aggregates, these five boxes: form, feeling, perception, mental formation, consciousness. And it operates through the six sense bases, your six sense organs. And then you have this thing called contact with the worldly phenomenon. That means the external screen, the external smell, the food, the tea, or whatever. So all these are external phenomena, worldly phenomena. So the formula, the Buddhist formula normally will state that depending on your eye organ, depending on your eyes, for example, depending on any of the organs, and depending on external objects. For example, the screen you see here, external object, then eye consciousness arise. Consciousness of the eyes arise. So the Buddhist formula will state consciousness rise after these things, after eyes and the phenomenon, worldly phenomenon. Then this eye consciousness arise. Because consciousness got many definitions. So probably like other religions, in other religions, when they believe like the consciousness is like permanent, some kind of 24/7 kind of observer, then a bit hard to observe impermanence. But I want to talk about moment to moment consciousness, then it's our basically our attention law. Whatever we see, hear, smell, think, taste, and touch. So that kind of consciousness, yes, easier to observe, easier to reflect on impermanence. And the meeting of three things, the meeting of your eyes, the meeting of the external object, meeting of the eye consciousness, we call this contact. So after the meeting of these three things, then it's called contact. So I'm giving a rundown of the dependent origination kind of sequence lah. Okay. Then after contact, when you have contact arise, then you have feelings, whether you find it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And based on that feeling, if you, who is confused at this point of time? All okay, Really, can follow, Okay. So I give an example of what is contact. For example, if you're looking at the screen now, your eyes are working, correct? The external screen is here all the time, agree? But let's say if you are daydreaming, then there is no contact of the eye. The eyes are there, external object is there, but no contact. Because there's contact with the mind door consciousness. If let's say you're daydreaming. So this is an example of contact. You need three things. So let's say the mind door is working, you're imagining something, and then the phenomenon, the thoughts that appear, whatever image or whatever experience you have, and then the mind door consciousness, right? That means your attention is kind of like paying attention there. And then the zooming in is called contact. The zooming in is called contact. So when you zoom in, then you pay attention to the feelings, whether is it nice or not nice or neutral. So only when you zoom in. But if you don't zoom in, you basically don't care. So our body and mind can have 1,001 things going on, but it's not like you know everything all the time because there's no contact. You don't zoom into a particular function. For example, right now, your heart is beating. Only when I mention your heart is beating, then you zoom in, right? Before I mention your heart is beating, you basically like don't care whether your heart is beating, correct? Yeah. But that doesn't mean your heart is not beating before that. Your heart is still beating, just that there's no contact. Yeah, so we call this uh, body contact, yeah, whatever. Body door consciousness. So you contact, then you have feelings, and then based on the feelings, if a person is not mindful, they are not mindful, they're not no, they're not practicing, then it's natural for them to react with greed, anger, or delusion. So depending on what feeling you have. If a person have pleasant feeling, then they react with greed. If they have unpleasant feeling, then they react with anger. Yeah, unpleasant feeling, they react with anger. And then from that, craving, which is the cause of suffering, then there will be clinging. So it's not mentioned here already. Clinging, no longer mentioned this creed. Then we cling to that emotion or cling to that sensation. So it can be any emotion, drowsiness even. So you cling, I'm very sure, right? You cling to it, and that's it, you'll be down there. Or some people may be angry the whole day. We call this clinging to the anger. Clinging to, for example, depression. Yeah, any emotion, they cling. Do they know it's bad? Of course, they know it's a bad emotion for them. But we call this clinging. They do not know how to let go. So clinging is like super glue, like an addiction. Yeah, so either you have something positive which is stronger than that bad emotion for them to cling to, or they have something else. Yeah, so it's not easy to uncling. Yeah, so because of this clinging to the emotion, then you form a certain personality. You form a certain personality. We call this becoming. And from that becoming, then there's birth, aging, sickness, and death. So I give an example. Let's say if you look at me now, what is your role? Student, right? So because of your contact, could be an eye contact or ear contact, then you have certain feelings and certain expectation. Or maybe I want to learn this or learn that, right? As a student. Then you become a student, based on your so-called craving, expectation. And then as a student, this personality will go through birth, aging, sickness, and death of a student. Maybe my lecture too boring or too lost, or right? Then you go through the suffering of the student. And now we switch your context. Let's say now you imagine your parents. So different context really lah. Then you have different feelings, maybe the nice times or the unpleasant times you have with your parents. So what is your role now? Child, right? If you think of parents, then the role will be a child. So the same thing as a child, then the child will go through that birth, aging, sickness, and death of a child. The stories and dramas, whatever you come up with. Then the same thing, if you think of your friends, then you become a friend, no? If you think of your colleagues at work and your colleague, no, like that. Yeah, so we cling based on that sensation or experience, then we become that personality. So that's the moment to moment dependent origination. So this is the I would say closer to the suttas version or majority of the suttas version, depending on how you interpret it. There might be a few interpretations that talk about dependent origination is a 3 lifetime thing, 3 lifetimes, which I won't talk about it, not too practical. So in the previous lesson, or the last week's lesson, we talked about the Susima Sutta. So the Buddha taught dependent origination to the Susima, that he also cannot see past life. There's probably a strong case to talk about dependent origination as every moment. Huh? Okay, so before we move on, good thing to take note is the first portion, the first aggregate form, you might see various interpretations. Some will interpret it as or translate it as matter. Some will translate it as body. Then same thing with nama, the other four, feeling, perception, mental formation, consciousness. They might translate it as mind. Yeah, so it's mind or mind matter or mentality, materiality, mind, body. So you have various translation. So because of the different various translation, the later on there'll be lots of branching lah. Okay, so this is like the evolution of the Vipassana. So the modern day Theravada will be using this one, this book called the Visuddhimagga, Path of Purification. So they have 16 stages of insight, 16 stages of Vipassana. So earlier on, we talked about the different Vipassana schools that emerged in the 1800s, mainly based on this book, Path of Purification. So got 16 steps. Wow, you see, wow, so many steps, like so cheap like that. Right? The book before this, called the Vimuttimagga, which is called the Path to Liberation, only has 6 steps. So which one is more correct, the 16 one or the 6? Then before that, the Suttas version only has 1 step. So Sutta only thought, you just do 1 step can really. Why do so many steps for what? Okay, so for example, the 16 step, I won't name all of them. Just the first one. The first step is to, depending on the translation again, some will say, differentiate nama rupa. Then some will say, separate nama rupa. So differentiate and separate can have many different interpretations. It could mean you're able to tell apart either mind or body or mind and matter. You can differentiate them. So that is one way of doing it. But if you interpret it as separate, then people say, oh, must pull them apart, you must split them. Yeah, so that's another, maybe some other school, some other teacher might interpret it that way. Like for example, some Thai forest master, they will tell you, okay, you must meditate until you fly out of the body, then see your body from behind. Then that is insight. So that is their interpretation of the first step of this Visuddhimagga. And Mind matter and mind body very different. No? Mind and matter. Matter can mean anything, any physical object with four elements. Like this one has four elements, my body also has four elements. So matter is like very general. But if you want to talk about mind and body, very specific, just your body. Anything else doesn't matter. So some people will practice just mind and body only lah. Then they'll tell you, I know how to detach mind and body. I know how to let go of mind and body. But then external thing cannot detach. And then they go shopping. Like, wow, so nice, so nice. Then it's a bit not all rounded. Huh? Okay, so probably later on, then we can verify whether is it mind matter or mind and body. Yes, we have a question. Hmm. Mind and matter. Nama means mind. Rupa means form. Okay, so we talk about the different translations. Rupa, some will, if you translate rupa as body, the Pali word would be kaya, not the one you apply in your roti. Kaya means body. Yeah, so rupa means form, yeah, the general translation. Okay, so we are going to talk about the one step because if you were to follow the 16 steps all the way, then all the different interpretation, the more you interpret further down the line, then the trajectory will go um, more off. So we just stick to the one step. And what is this one step we're talking about? Okay, so it comes from this Sila One Sutta. There's a conversation between Venerable Kotika and Venerable Sariputta. So Venerable Sariputta is the wisest disciple of the Buddha. So they had a conversation. This Venerable Kotika, the junior monk, asked this Venerable Sariputta, how can an ordinary person, an unenlightened person, haven't seen the truth, how can they reach stream entry from like a unrealized state to realizing stream entry? What should they do? So Venerable Sariputta said, I must do this. Must contemplate five aggregates as impermanent, suffering, disease, cancer, error, painful, affliction, alien, or so many. Now even got alien. Dissolution, emptiness, non-self. So you just pick any one of them and then you just keep on reflecting. So usually for our routine, we don't straight away jump to all these emptiness, all this. The safest one is start off with impermanence. Because this one is evidential. Because the others is a bit like you must really know the concept very well. You probably need some steps before reaching the conclusion. Yeah, but the safest route will be starting with impermanence. So I give an example. In primary school and secondary school, you all know the mathematics textbook you all have, all the answers at the back, right? Yeah, so reflecting on on emptiness and all those chim chim stuff, it's like straight away looking at the back of the answer, but do not know the working. Yeah, so you might label it correctly, but you do not know the process of detachment. So the working itself is actually this one, reflection of impermanence. So as you observe the phenomenon, then you keep reflecting impermanence or reciting impermanence. Then the more you detach, then the clearer you understand the rest. Then you slowly get to the other answers. So this is the working step. Okay, then this Venerable Kotika asks the same thing. How can a person upgrade from a stream enterer to what's the next stage? One's returner. So that's the second stage of enlightenment. He said, do the same thing. Basically, do the same thing. And then the Venerable Kotika asks again, how can a person from one's returner, second stage of enlightenment, go to the third stage of enlightenment, which is non-returner? Can make a guess. Yeah, do the same thing, right? Yes, do the same thing. And then this Vambakotaka asks again, how can a non-returner upgrade and become a Arahant? Do the same thing, exactly. Yeah, so the sutta version is just do one thing. So same with the fifth and sixth lesson when we talk about the Satipatthana Sutta, four foundation of mindfulness, is just observing, rising and passing. Just one step only. Yeah? Don't need so many steps. Okay, so this is the one step method. But then the next question is how to apply. Ah, yes, you have a question. Same, same. Okay. Because all of us have five aggregates. It's not like a monk special. Then you got a different set of aggregates. Monk. Yeah, generally. Also depends on many factors. Yeah. Okay, so then the next question is how to apply. How to apply. So we just talked about five aggregates, right? So we're going to talk about different scenarios, how to apply them. So we can have reference from the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, which is the second discourse of the Buddha. So it mentions towards the end of the sutta, you see like a lot of interesting applications. Okay, so the first one talks about you can reflect on the five aggregates with regard to any time, yeah, past, future, or present. Past, future, or present. They might be thinking, hey, meditation can think of past and future, man. How many of you think meditation is only think about present moment? One? Yeah, we have a few people. Huh? So probably that marketing very successful. They'll say meditation must think of present moment, cannot think of past, cannot think of future. Then so probably I break a bit of the stereotype. So we have official like meditation, for example, recollection of the Buddha. How many of you met the Buddha before? Never. Buddha is like 2000 over years ago, you know. So it's thinking of the Buddha is thinking of the past. Think of the Buddha, great teacher. I haven't seen him teach before. Teacher of gods and human, how he teach. So you think of his life story, his virtues and qualities. So that's an official meditation, thinking of the past. Or for example, when we think of the impurities of the body, think of the birth, aging, sickness, and death. So there's reference of past and future really. Reference of past and future. So it's an official meditation. So again, thinking of past, future, and present, you can do it correctly or you can do it wrongly. If you cling to any of these, then it's wrong. For example, untrained person or if a person do it wrongly, they think of past and future, they would be like, if I owe, who will take care of me? Then they worry and worry, Lord. Then how about the medical insurance? They start to worry and worry and worry. Then becomes not detaching, no longer detaching. So same thing, if a person think of the present, I always give the example of influencer, those people who live stream. Live stream very present, So they present on live stream, then they do go about their things, doing their mundane stuff. Maybe do fitness or I don't know what it is. Then they always look at the body lah. See my body is so nice, my body is so. So do you think there's any detachment? Yeah, may not have detachment. So um, past, present, and future, either you do it correctly or wrongly. So that's why in our meditation routine, we talk about if you want to visualize the parts of the body, please do it fast. Birth, aging, sickness, death, please go through the cycle fast. Fast forward the process. If you stay in one stage for too long, then you start to worry. My skin start to wrinkle. Yeah, what kind of skin product must I buy? Then you start to start to worry already. So you go through the process fast. Then go through process fast, then you can understand how to detach. So clinging. So earlier on we talked about the dependent origination model. We only talk about the clinging process. I didn't talk about the detachment process. So this is the detachment process. To overcome the clinging or to overcome this cycle of attachment, we need to reduce craving. So once you have contact only and feeling, they must quickly think of impermanence. Quickly think of impermanence, right thought, to overcome the greed, anger, and delusion. Okay, so why must you have this exercise to think of past, present, and future? Because in daily life, you're supposed to apply it. How many of you can only think of present moment all the time? Yeah, in daily life, you need to plan, you need to think of the future also, right? Sometimes need to think of the past. So I give the common example. If you want to fill up an application form, maybe a new job or whatever it is, then they ask you, when is your birthday? How many of you put present moment on? You put present moment, confirm application field. Or they ask you, when do you graduate? Or when's your last job experience? You put present moment gone. So you need to think of the past. You need to think of which date. Right? So you need to apply. That means when we use these cognitive functions, we also can recollect impermanence. So that's the gist of it. Okay, then same thing, internal, external. We covered this in the four foundation of mindfulness also. Your attention can be inside or your attention can be outside. So interesting. So if your attention is outside, the nama rupa, the rupa cannot be the body anymore. Because rupa, if it's external, can be anything external. The camera is external, this thing is external. So it has the five aggregates. So it can be both internal or external. Then blatant or subtle. So blatant is something core, something physical. Subtle would be something like imaginary, like in the mind, when we visualize the parts of the body, so that is something subtle. Common or sublime. So common states of mind, greed, anger, delusion. Sublime, maybe sublime states, states of concentration, states of insight. Far or near. So it can be nearby, it can be like within this room or far away. Uh, some news or events that go on some other countries, right, far away, right? Every form or every of the five aggregates is to see as impermanent, suffering, non-self, and so on. It's the list of contemplations, right? So this is the application part. So same thing, you cannot say, oh, yeah, I got no time to practice, because actually every moment is a right opportunity to practice. These are all the options for you. You have all the avenues to practice. Okay, right. So last week we talked about the different types of samadhi. So it's a bit of the terms, very like cross, can be used for both uh, samatha and vipassana. So vipassana has vipassana samadhi. If the mind is able to calm down with vipassana, right? So so now we're going to talk about samatha or samadhi. Oops. Okay, so the function of samadhi is to calm the mind down without any form of detachment. So it's just purely focusing on a concept just to calm the mind down. So that is the function of samatha or the samadhi from samatha. So that is the some of the symptoms a person might have after some joy or happiness, that the mind has calming effect. And then the next phase will be if the mind is calm through the samatha, then they can do investigation. Then they can do the vipassana, can do the insight. So yeah, same thing, mindfulness or the four foundation of mindfulness, body, feeling, mind, dhamma. And that is one of the suttas that mention it. So there is one mode of practice. One mode of practice. So it mentions here, set free, yeah? Set free and undirected. So there are some schools that teach open awareness. Open awareness. So there is one form of vipassana. That means don't control, don't fixate here, don't think of any direction. So it's all over the place, so undirected. So this one is one type of vipassana. If a person focus, for example, focus on the breath and they think of impermanence, there is also another type of vipassana. Okay. And then we can cross, train also can cross. So it's not just like one direction. You cannot say, okay, do samatha first, then do vipassana. Or do vipassana first, then do samatha. So there's no straightforward method. Oops, sorry. Okay. So there's this Yuganada Sutta. It's a story of Venerable Ananda. Is the attendant of the Buddha. So he went around and interviewed all the enlightened monks during the Buddha's time and asked them, now what's your strategy? How do you practice and reach enlightenment? So after interviewing all of them, then he has like four general responses. So the first group of enlightened monks, or the first category, they do the samadhi first. That means the jhanic kind of samatha. Then later on, then they do insight, they do vipassana. Then they reach enlightenment. So that's the first group. Then the second group, the other way around. They do vipassana, or I would say sometimes pure vipassana. Then from that insight, they develop this vipassana samadhi. That means no jhana. Yeah? Then they reach enlightenment. So that's the second group. Then the third group is combination. While doing their samatha, when they're entering the jhanic concentration, they also think of impermanence or they reflect on something else. So we saw that last week, like in the Jhana Sutta, or let's say a person practice the four sublime states, they think of impermanence. So that would be like the combination, both samatha and vipassana together. And the last group is very interesting. The last group, they kind of do neither of the above. They have certain questions, certain doubt in the teaching. Then they keep asking and asking and asking. Then eventually they reach enlightenment. A bit like the Zen, the 话题 or the 个案. The Zen master asks you, what is the sound of one hand clapping? But no, probably very different then. Okay, so this is the four different strategies. So there's no hard and fast rule which one you should use. Yes, you have a question. Yeah, 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 correct. Yeah, so one of the case examples we gave in the when we talk about the Asubha Sutta, I think the third lesson or something. Um, the Buddha was comparing Asubha practitioners, impurities of the body practitioners versus jhanic practitioners. So the Buddha is comparing as though Asubha practitioners cannot attain jhanas. So the Buddha mentioned the Asubha practitioners are practicing the unpleasant path because they have to visualize all the disgusting parts of the body. Whereas the jhanic practitioners are practicing the pleasant path, probably all the pleasant factors, all the no the joy, happiness, whatever. And either of these paths The Buddha said both also can reach enlightenment. So fast or slow depends on the faculties lah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Not necessary, but good to have. Mm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, so like mentioned previously, in most systems, they may not teach like jhanas, like in all the jhana factors for each of the levels. Sometimes they, for example, they might teach one particular style. Maybe they ask you to recite Bhutto, Bhutto, Bhutto. Then they enter certain concentration, certain maybe jhanic or formless arupa jhana concentration, but they may not know it's a jhanic concentration. They may not know. They just know it's all very quiet, lor, very still. Lor. Then once you're very still, then they ask you to think of the impurities of the body, for example. So that could be like the Thai forest style of the samatha vipassana. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so this is what we are doing. Okay, then to further add on, like if you want to like water down to like in very general for more layperson to use, then we have this four guardian meditation or four guardian contemplations. So a person need to recollect the Buddha, mindfulness of the Buddha for right view. So again, recollection of the Buddha's qualities or his life story to have this certain right view. You know, why he reached enlightenment for what? If not, you do not have right view, then you come and practice, have all kinds of agenda. And some people want to predict 40 numbers only and they come here. So it's just to have this understanding of Four Noble Truth or emphasize on the Four Noble Truth as the basis. And then we have the loving kindness, then followed by impurities and body meditation, and then the last one, Marana Sati. So in our routine, we kind of do this also. We do the Brahma Viharas to overcome anger. Then we do the impurities of the body to promote this detachment to the body parts. And then Marana Sati to think of the body parts passing away. So basically, it's to think of impermanence. So it's a sequence. If you person straight away do this Marana Sati without the right conditioning, without the right emotion, basically, then it's easy to get depression. Or they straight away do this Asupa straight away without these two can get depression. Yeah, so it's good to have these four guardian meditation. So you need a precursor, the mind needs to be stable and calm before you do any of the other kinds of reflection. Okay, then move. Yes. You can do individually. So an object of meditation by itself, for example, Asubha meditation by itself, can reach enlightenment. No? There are practitioners who reach enlightenment, the monks in the Buddha's time, they reach enlightenment just doing one. Doing metta alone also can reach enlightenment. But our routine, we kiasu, we do everything. Yeah. So it's like a general introduction to let you know the different tools. Then at home, at your own free time, then you just choose which tool you want to use. Lor. Then yes, that's the end of the sharing. And this QR code is basically to my online classes lah, or my email. kind of subscription. So in any future classes or those who want to attend my Google Meets, whatever session, you can scan this. Yeah. Or yeah, you can get my phone number also. Huh? Yeah, so I think some of you in the WhatsApp group also. Okay, so yes, that's the end of my sharing. Any questions from the ground? No questions on Zoom. Any questions?
No questions online. But we
Okay.
have 14 participants
Okay.
today.
So if there's no question, then we go for a break, 5 minute break, then we come back on the meditation. Huh? Next. Okay, so we're going to try to explore the different modes of meditation. So actually all the while we are more or less doing the same routine, just that through the different theoretical sharing, then you can get to understand the different options better. So the first thing we're doing is the impurities of the body meditation. So we do this visualization, can visualize the body parts, starting the hairs of the head, hairs of the body. So in actual practice, when you visualize, or you just visualize, but technical terms, then we use mind, sense, door, mind, door, contact. And then when you think on the parts of the body, then you have different feelings. And you might find the hair pleasant, unpleasant. And if you do not do anything about it, then you react with greed or anger. And the hair is beautiful looking, then I like my hair. Then all kinds of stories will come about regarding the hairs. Then you become the character in the story. We call this becoming. And then you have the suffering, we call the simulated samsara. Birth, aging, sickness, and death all play out in the mind. And the other extreme would be aversion. If you don't like the hair, then again, different story mode. So if you want to practice detachment to get out of it, so we intervene with the right thought. So we start to first wish it well and happy. When you conjure image, so that's one contact, wish it well and happy. And then once you finish the sentence, quickly move on to a new contact and then wish it well and happy. A new patch of hair, well and happy. New patch of hair, well and happy. If you idle for too long, for more than 2 seconds, then you'll be in the samsara mode. And to know whether you are doing it correctly, you have to check whether the tension level is it increasing or decreasing. If it's decreasing, means you're on the right track. It should lead you to getting calmer. If there's more anxiety, more aversion, or any unwholesome state of mind, then that would be not the correct way. Huh? Okay, so this is just the samatha phase. You find the mind relatively calm, or like that's the maximum limit of calmness. Then we call this your neutral baseline state. No jhanas here, nah? So it's just a neutral state. And that would be the minimum requirement for insight and wisdom. So now we are shifting to the insight portion. We're going to think of all these hairs going through birth, aging, sickness, and death. So you fast forward this aging process, and as you keep on looping the image, and mentally you must also recite birth, aging, sickness, death. The emphasis is on just the birth and death process. We are not interested in the any side stories. Huh? Okay, and if there's real detachment taking place, then there should be some joy appearing as an indicator you're on the right track. Joy of detachment. And regardless of what you experience, keep on reciting birth, aging, sickness, death. And then we can ask ourselves, are these hairs truly self? So basically, the more natural way to understand non-self is to observe all this sense of self or selfishness. Is it increasing or decreasing in intensity? Can we tell the hairs not to go through birth and death? Okay, and now we're going to move on to the next part of the body, which is the nails, fingernails and toenails. And without thinking of impermanence, then you get to probably understand or observe how the clinging process kind of restart. Yeah? And we wish the nails well and happy. Okay, and then once we find the mind relatively calm, then we can think of impermanence. All the nails go through birth, aging, sickness, and death. So we think of them growing and falling, many, many cycles. And as we keep on looping the image, we mentally recite birth, aging, sickness, and death. So basically, this is thinking of past, present, and future with the correct way. As long as you don't sidetrack to any storytelling, then you're on the path of detachment. Okay, then we can ask ourselves, are these nails truly self? Can we tell the nails not to go through birth and death? Okay, then get to understand or experience some detachment. Now we are going to think of the next part of the body, which is the teeth, or the teeth inside the mouth, and we wish them well and happy. So without impermanence, then again will rearise clinging, and observe the change in state of mind while we wish the teeth well and happy. And all these teeth are subject to birth, aging, sickness, and death. We think of the teeth growing and falling many, many cycles. Even though the teeth fall off the most twice, we just keep on repeating. And as we keep looping the image, we need to recite birth, aging, sickness, death. So what we are training here is not to train the teeth. We're actually learning to let go of the 5 aggregates. So the image you visualize, we call this the mind door consciousness. And you think of the teeth changing, growing and falling. Every time you generate a new image, that's a new mental formation. That's a 4th aggregate. The image, the shape, the colors, all these are part of perception. And then the feelings you have, whether you like it or dislike it, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, that's the feeling aggregate, with every image appearing. And the 4 elements, that's the form aggregate. So the image of the teeth, you can call it the subtle form, whereas your actual teeth in the mouth, that is the gross form. Then we can think of the impermanence of the 5 aggregates. When you think of the teeth growing and falling, then you can ask yourself, are these form aggregate? Are they permanent or impermanent? And when you visualize the process, are the feelings aggregate? Are they permanent or impermanent? Is it pleasant all the time or unpleasant all the time? Or is it changing? And the third one is the perception aggregate. Basically, it's your memory based on the image you can recall, then you kind of create that image. Perception. And is the perception permanent or impermanent? Is your memory reliable? Is the image the exact photocopy of your actual teeth? Because not many people have photographic memory. And the next aggregate is the formation, mental formation. Every time you generate an image, that's a new mental formation. Is it forming the same set of images you want, or is it forming something else? And the fifth aggregate would be your consciousness, your attention aggregate. Is your attention always to the image, or is it running around and you try to always bring back to the image? All these are part of R&D. Understand your own 5 aggregates. Okay, then we can now think of the skin of the entire body, and we're going to wish them well and happy. And all this skin are subject to birth, aging, sickness, and death. So you think of them growing and falling, many, many cycles. And as we keep looping this image, we can keep on reciting birth, aging, sickness, and death. So the 5 aggregates is actually 5 in 1. As long as you think of birth, aging, sickness, and death, of this image keep looping, you're actually detaching, slowly detaching from these 5 aggregates. Okay. And you really split the aggregates. Differentiate, yes. At least in the suttas, it mentioned that you cannot split apart nama rupa, they are together. Okay, then we can ask ourselves, are the skin truly self? Can we tell the skin not to go through birth and death? And the next phase of meditation, we're going to familiarize with the 4 elements sensations, so there is no need to visualize anymore. So now we are using the body door contact. So basically any sensation that appear at any part of the body, we're going to wish them well and happy. So don't have to purposely focus on one part of the body. We try to make it a bit open awareness, at least within the confines of the body. So any sensation appearing anywhere, we let it appear naturally by itself, and our only job is to wish them well and happy. Okay, if the mind is quite settled down to the baseline state, baseline emotion, then we are now going to cultivate this boundless loving kindness. We are now going to wish, may all beings in all directions well and happy, above, below, and all across. May all beings be well and happy. So without exerting or pushing, we let the mind extend naturally by itself. And in that enlarged area of attention, we are going to perceive all beings as the four element sensations or the five aggregates. So there's no need to visualize them. So we say using this lowest common denominator, any sensation appear, we're going to wish, may all beings be well and happy. So anytime a sensation appear, may all beings be well and happy. New sensation appear, may all beings be well and happy. Oh, the faster you recite better, then the lesser the clinging. Okay, if the conditions are right, you have the right thoughts, right effort, everything, keep on wishing, may all beings be well and happy. Usually loving kindness may lead one to the first level of concentration or the first jhana, indicated by some increment in joy and happiness. compared to the neutral baseline from earlier. And regardless of what you experience, keep on wishing, may all beings be well and happy. Yeah, this is the tranquility portion, and now we're going to the insight portion. So we are going to now think of rising and passing. So any sensation appear, we just think of rising and passing, or mentally recite rising and passing. So when the faculty of concentration is a bit stronger, then the insight will manifest a bit more intense. And regardless of what you experience, keep on reciting rising and passing. Okay, and let's see, experience this joy of detachment start to disappear. And this time around, you get neutral but more refreshing or alert kind of experience. So we call that equanimity. So this one is in tandem, both the jhanic concentration and also the insight kind of equanimity. So regardless of what you experience, keep on reciting, rising and passing. Okay, and before we conclude the session due to time constraint, same gentle reminder in all activities, whether we're sitting, standing, walking, or lying down, we can be mindful of impermanence or mindful of the sublime states. And with that, we can gently open our eyes, formally end the session, and formally generate right thought. Okay, so this is the last lesson for this course. Any further queries, problems, questions? No, nothing. Okay, then we pass over to the organizer. Any announcement